Hey everybody, Silverpaw Reads here. I almost used my separate YouTube channel intro. But yes, I am doing now chapter 13 of those three words. So let's get on with it. Prom's next week, Shadow mentioned casually. Sonic mumbled a in response, doodling shapeless things on the back of his notebook. One scribbled, "Start looking a lot like a gun." The rounded tip pointed unintentionally towards a thin streak bearing two sticks that resembled twin tails. When Sonic noticed this, he scrawled over the doodles hurriedly, glancing at Tails, who was buried deep in his workbook. Shadow tilted his head slightly, smirking as he continued to push the blue hedgehog sitting to his left. "So, Sonic, have you found anyone to go with yet?" He expected his rival to yell back at him. In some previous cases, when Sonic was really riled up, Shadow had only to flick him lightly and Sonic would have slammed him up against the wall, screaming empty threats into his smug, triumphant face. This time all he received was a brief scowl and a reply of, "Plenty of people want to go with me, Shadow." "So, who is going with you, then?" Sonic growled lightly. Shadow was so irritating. The blue hedgehog could feel the anger automatically clench his fist as soon as Shadow started speaking. "I haven't decided yet." Shadow couldn't help chuckling at this, if a little warily. "Well, you'd better hurry up and choose somebody." The dark hedgehog smirked, enjoying the conversation more and more with every small twitching of Sonic's clenched fists. "Otherwise, the girls will start looking for other guys to ask." Sonic breathed heavily, turning his head back to his rival and staring blankly at the wall above Tails' head, trying hard not to stare slightly lower at Tails' adorably concentrated face. If he was honest, Sonic didn't want to go to the prom at all. He hated things like that for a start. Plus, there was the pressing fact that he didn't actually have a girl to go with. Though, why would he want to go with a girl? They annoyed him a lot, staring at him, giggling, chatting behind his back, the end of swooning over him whenever he fought with Shadow or won yet another race. They were so small and loud and high-pitched. Sonic rolled his eyes at himself. He didn't really think all that about every girl in existence. He knew next to no girls that annoyed him that much. Besides Marine, he thought gloomily. The only reason he didn't like girls was because he wasn't attracted to them. Though, of course, it wasn't simple at all. Sonic often wondered how he was supposed to live his entire life avoiding women. It wasn't possible. His parents already curiously quizzed him about dating. What would they say if he never brought a girl home? And of course, they'd expect him to get married, have kids. Not only was it a repulsive thought for Sonic that he'd have to spend his whole life with some girl whilst not liking her in the slightest. It wasn't fair for whoever fell in love with him, for his possible future kids, and he knew secrets always find a way of revealing themselves at the worst possible times. "Sonic? Huh?" The blue hedgehog turned quickly towards Tails, who was looking at him oddly. "What?" "You shuddered," Tails said, his voice pitched in a tone that showed that he didn't really think it was important at all, and was simply looking for an excuse to start a conversation with his best friend. Sometimes Sonic found it scary the way they could read each other so easily. Tails looked away quickly, frightened at how easily he could forget where he was and the dangers of holding a look with Sonic for that long. The lustful tension between the two of them was unbearable. Both knew exactly what the other was thinking, and they'd yet to find an opportunity where it felt appropriate to talk about what had been said a few nights ago. It was impossible, the teens knew, to do what they desperately wanted. The amount of time their parents were out of the house was random and unpredictable. They needed to be sure that they'd have a good amount of time to themselves, no interruptions guaranteed. The school bell rang, startled them both, and they glanced uncertainly at each other. The reason they each knew what the other was thinking was simple. They thought the same thing. Sonic was a little surprised when Blaze the cat approached him, her face calm and nobody by her side. The two had been friends in previous years, but slowly they'd become less close for no specific reason as they'd gotten older. They still talked occasionally, but usually only as part of a group or about other people. "Sonic," the lilac cat started immediately, "I need to ask you a favor." Sonic frowned slightly, but replied with a, "Okay." Blaze sighed, directing her eyes over at the ceiling as if struggling to order her words. "Just listen, okay? Me and Silver broke up. He wanted to take some other girl to the prom instead, but because she'd asked him. He didn't want to break up with me at all, but he just wanted to gain popularity by going with the other girl who's apparently more popular than me. So I was wondering if you'd go to the prom with me to make him jealous." Sonic blinked, a little taken aback by such a large amount of info, and at the fact that Silver had broken up with Blaze. Even before their relationship, they were close friends, and they were the most successful couple in the school, with a 16-month run and next to no arguments or fallouts. "You want to go to the prom with me?" Sonic confirmed slowly. Blaze nodded just as hesitantly, wondering why Sonic was acting so dumb. Her brow raised slightly at the possibilities. "We'd be there purely for show," she added, just in case the hedgehog mistook it and started expecting a full relationship, "to make Silver jealous." "Right. Is that okay?" "Yeah, sure." "Okay." Sonic coughed awkwardly, letting out a breath that he didn't even realize he'd been holding as Blaze walked away. He felt a laugh swell in his chest and at his unbelievable luck. Not only had he found a date for the prom, but his date was someone who clearly wouldn't want further romantic involvement with him after the event. "Sonic?" The hedgehog turned to the small voice and a gentle tug at his sleeve, still grinning like an idiot at his repressed laughter. Tails' own mouth curled into an amused smile at the unfamiliar and somewhat creepy expression that distorted Sonic's face so startlingly. That's a hard word. "What are you laughing at?" "Nothing," Sonic replied, no longer interested in the subject and desperate to get home. He began to walk towards the exit. Tails hurried after him, touching his best friend's arm lightly to grab his attention. "Sonic?" "Tails, we should get home. Everyone else is gone." The fox kept a loose grip on Sonic's arm, a grip that could easily be escaped from, but somehow managed to keep the hedgehog still. He turned unwillingly to face his concerned best friend. "Tails, I want to go home." "Why don't you ever talk to me?" Tails interrupted, hurrying his sentence so that his words merged together. Sonic's green eyes bore right into Tails' blue ones, filled with worry and confusion. Sonic shrugged his arm free gently, leaving Tails' hand suspended and grabbing at nothing but air. Thick with tension and longing, his arm fell to the side lifelessly as he ordered his words again. You never talk to me about things, Sonic. What I asked you yesterday, why do you refuse to answer me and change the subject so quickly?" "I don't like talking," Sonic responded fairly quickly. His face burned. He didn't even like talking, and how he didn't, he didn't even like talking about how he didn't like talking. Things, problems, how I'm feeling. I don't like discussing them with anyone. I prefer to listen to people to help them, not be helped. I don't mean to upset you. The blue teen rolled his eyes tactfully away from Tails, stepping back and heading once more towards the school's exit. "We're going home," he said coldly, bitter from his own lack of personal strength and stubbornness. Tails thought about what had just been said between them the previous night, or what hadn't been said in Sonic's case, as Shadow grumbled to Sonic for arriving out of school so late. It was 3 nights after they both confirmed what they wanted to do, taking it one step further, so to speak. Though they hadn't discussed that topic since then, it hung awkwardly in the air around them, thickening the tension so much the two of them were surprised that others couldn't see it. "Sonic?" Tails had mumbled against his secret partner's mouth. Sonic sat up, pulling away from the fox reluctantly. It was painfully obvious that he thought they should be spending every second of their time alone, making the most of it. At most, they only ever had around 40 minutes alone before parents would begin to arrive home and interrupt the two of them. Sonic had replied simply, leaning as close as possible to Tails and entwining strands of tail fur between his fingers gently. The fur was like cotton, long, delicate strands that waved softly in the slight breeze, comfortable and warm and fluffy. Tails shifted awkwardly, unsure whether or not his question was even worth asking. It was pointless, unimportant, but a thing which made the young fox curious. It was rare that Sonic had secrets from his best friend, though it wasn't a secret per se. "What is it?" Sonic asked impatiently, his hands wandering around Tails' back slowly, making the fox tremble at the light strokes outside his shirt. Do you remember exactly when you found out you were gay?" Tails asked quietly, still not entirely sure what Sonic would say. The hedgehog swallowed, drawing his hands back into himself, rubbing his upper arm uncomfortably. Not really," was his answer, though he could have written a 6-page essay on what happened, where he was, what he thought, what he decided to do. Trouble was that he was never good at writing essays. Stringing one off from words alone would have taken days. "Do you?" "Yes." "Oh." Tails' shoulders slumped as a sigh heaved his chest. "Don't you want to know what it was, or how I felt?" "Not particularly." The fox's blue eyes shimmered with hurt as he pulled away from his best friend coldly. The truth was, he had been terrified. Discovering that he was how he was basically the same as receiving a death notice. That night, Tails got next to no sleep. He cried silently for hours, burying his head into his pillow in case the overwhelming urge to scream took him over completely until he couldn't resist. He tossed constantly until his sheets became a useless, tangled mess. What little sleep he'd managed to get was fitful, splattered with chilling nightmares, so that Tails woke up unable to breathe, sweat and tears soaking his body in fear, horrifying his mind for days afterwards. This had been weeks before he told Sonic. Most of the bad dreams he had starred Sonic in them. His disgusted face burned into Tails' vision. He had no idea whatsoever how he had managed to gather the courage to tell his friend, or when he had made the decision to. The days between terrifying nightmares and kissing Sonic for the first time were a blur. He couldn't remember them if he tried. It's amazing how far they'd come in the short couple of months they'd been secretly together, but what was even more amazing was how far they still had to go. The finish line was nowhere in sight. Yet. The day when Blaze awkwardly asked Sonic to the prom, Sonic and Tails did not go to the same house for 40 minutes of kissing like they usually did. Tails was still hurt that Sonic couldn't talk to him, whereas Sonic resented himself for hurting Tails. The tension between them was not only unbearable, but it was ripping them apart. Just wish I could stop falling out of the stupidest things, Sonic thought with an unhappy sigh as he trailed into his kitchen. He was surprised to see his mother standing in there smiling at him as he walked in. "Hey, Mom," he said, unable to fake a look of happiness quick enough. "Bad day at school?" His parent asked sympathetically. Sonic gave him a weak smile. "Yeah, kind of." "Listen, you want to invite Tails over this weekend? It's a bit pointless you both being alone when you could be together." "What?" "Your father and I won that trip to a hotel with Tails' parents, remember?" Sonic blinked. "You forgot?" His mother sighed in a typical boy's tone. Sonic couldn't help the grin slowly spread across his face. He mumbled something in reply and then ran upstairs to his room, closing the door and leaning against it. Laughter spluttered from his lips as his legs trembled. They were going to be alone for a whole 2 days. 2 days of no interruptions. Guaranteed. The luck he'd had today was unbelievable. Too good to be true. He knew that he wasn't lucky. He didn't want to go to the prom with Blaze with anyone, and the laughs that still shook his body he knew were just to mask the petrifying fear that made his legs tremble at the idea of himself and Tails being alone for so long.